Today, we break down the current Iran standoff. Not the headlines, but the real military picture. We'll cover the following 5 key aspects. First, the current military situation and options. Second, Turkey's political position and whether a northern front is even possible. Third, the Zagros Mountains, the single most important terrain feature in this war. Fourth, the operational factors including the impact of the Iranian summer. And finally, we'll tie it all together with a map-based understanding of how the war would possibly unfold. The present situation is not a conventional build-up for an invasion. It is a high-intensity standoff dominated by the air and naval power only. Before we get into the actual situation on ground, just a 1, 2, 3 demonstration as to the possible fictional power projection on the present operational scenario. This is how possibly an invasion on Iran would look like. Firstly, perhaps 2 core-sized forces debouching from Kuwait, going for the terminal objective of Tehran, and the major battle perhaps being fought on the Zagrov range before converging the 2 pincers to the capital of Tehran. And now, the present ground situation in Iran. The United States currently maintains the following groups in readiness for deployment when required. Firstly, a carrier strike group in the Gulf and Eastern Mediterranean. Secondly, air bases at Qatar, UAE, and Jordan. And lastly, long-range bomber capability from the island of Diego Garcia. Iran, on the other hand, relies on, firstly, its ballistic forces. Secondly, a distributed air defense. And thirdly, the ability to cause naval disruption capability in the states of Hormuz. So what are the military options of the United States? Option 1 is an air-naval campaign. There would be precision strikes on nuclear and military facilities in Iran. Also, put in place a maritime blockade and an isolation of Iran. The second option is a limited ground seizure. They could capture coastal areas of importance with perhaps a brigade-sized group to hold. And the third option is a full-scale invasion. This would require around 300,000 troops, a long build-up which could take weeks or even perhaps go into months. So therefore, the key takeaway today is that the current posture supports a strike only, and the troops may not be deployed for the invasion of Iran. Turkey's position and options. A northern axis through Turkey appears attractive on paper, but politically it is highly constrained. Turkey is a NATO member, but not automatically aligned with the US war aims in Iran. In fact, during the 2003 Iran-Iraq war, Turkey refused to allow US ground forces to launch a northern invasion. Today, Turkey's priorities are, firstly, containing Kurdish movements, and secondly, maintaining a regional balance. Thirdly, avoiding direct confrontation with Iran. Even if access were granted, there is no large logistics base in northern Turkey for the US. Secondly, no prepositioned heavy equipment. And lastly, long and vulnerable supply lines. So the final conclusion is that a Turkey-based axis is politically uncertain and logistically weak. It may be useful for pressure, but not for decisive operations. The Zargov mountain range runs across Iran, forming a natural defensive wall. What makes them so important operationally is firstly the southern axis advance from Kuwait or the Gulf must climb into the narrow passes. Western advances from Iraq are funneled into choke points in depth. And even the northern routes converge into limited corridors. Why this matters is, firstly, in Iraq, US forces maneuvered through open desert and had no problems in movement. In Iran, forces are channelized into predictable routes, which can be slowed down by ambush and delay. This creates ideal ambush zones, ideal anti-armor kill zones, and delays and causes attrition on the advancing enemy. The bottom line therefore remains that all axes converge into the Zagros battle space, where defensive battle can be planned decisively. Operational factors and the Iranian summer. Timing matters, and the Iranian summer is a major operational factor. As far as the temperature goes, it often exceeds 45 to 50 degrees centigrade in the lowlands. Now, how does this affect operations? Firstly, there is a logistics strain. Fuel consumption increases, equipment starts overheating, and there are increased maintenance cycles. Secondly, the troop fatigue. There are casualties from heat, and also there is reduced combat endurance. And lastly, the air operations. There is a reduced lift capacity, and the dust and visibility is not good for the equipment or the men. The temperature, therefore, imposes a slower advance rate and a higher attrition. The additional critical factors are, firstly, the missile threat to the supply lines. Secondly, the Straits of Hormuz's vulnerability. Thirdly, urban warfare in the Iranian cities. And fourthly, Iran's interior lines of communications. Therefore, the deeper the forces go, the harder the sustenance becomes. Let me now put it across to you in an operational based summary. Putting it all together, you have three axes. The southern axis, which is from the Gulf, Bandar Abbas, into the interior. The western axis from Iraq, Awez, Zagros, and Isfahan. The northern pressure, this will be very limited, from Turkey to Tabriz. But critically, all these axes converge onto the Zagros choke point system, where the whole temperature of the advance slows down. Attrition rates increase decidedly, and the outcome is difficult to decide. In conclusion, let me put it across that the Iran standoff is not about rapid invasion. It's about fixed constraints. Firstly, the political constraints that limit the northern option. Geographical constraints that funnel all advances through narrow valleys. Climatic constraints that degrade the operational temperature. Logistic constraints for rapid advance in the desert. All the above favor the defender as he is fighting on home ground and is fighting a hated aggressor. The final thought I would leave is the United States can choose where and when to start the war. But Iran's terrain, political motivation, the success he has achieved so far, the fact that they are fighting for their survival, and the punishing summer temperatures will determine how this war will end.